Welcome to Whiskey's a Journey. My name is Peter Fasciano, and today is Monday, which means it's time for a whiskey review. As you can tell, I'm doing a double review today. I picked up the Longrow Red 7 a couple of months ago. Just like always, we're going to pour it, nose it, taste it, talk about it. We're going to add water at the end, and then we're going to give it a score. And I'm obviously going to compare these two. So before I actually get into it, let me go ahead and give you the stats on the Longrow Red. Obviously, it's 7 years of age. It coming in at 57.1% ABV, 57.1% ABV. It is initially matured in ex-bourbon barrels for 4 years, with an additional 3 years in the Pinot Noir casks. Non-chill filtered, natural colored. This is a 700 milliliter bottle, and I paid $179.99. The regular release Longrow is also non-chill filtered. It's also natural color. It's coming in at 46% ABV, and this is fully matured, even though it's a non-age statement. It's fully matured in ex-bourbon. 750 milliliter bottle, and I paid $89.99. Definitely a color difference, which I think is natural because of the Pinot Noir casks. So let's go ahead and get into these and see what I think about them. This is heavily peated, and there's a vanilla note in here, and obviously the Pinot Noir, there's going to be a wine cask influence in this one. And the peat note that's coming out of here is the smoked meat savory thing. It's not ashy campfire, and it's not medicinal. It's malty. It does have a fruit note, but I really can't tell you specifically what type of fruit it is. My default is just light fruits, peaches and pineapples. The spice is ginger, so there's a little bit of a sour spice coming through. And there's a fermented fruit note that's coming through, which is giving this a slight amount of funk to it. Now, I don't know if that is the Springbank funk or not, but there is something a little bit off-putting to the nose. And then on the far back end, there is a slight amount of vanilla. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing on the palate. Oh, okay, there you go. On the palate, there is definitely a very sweet wine note. It's very sugary, very malty, and that peat note is amazing. I absolutely loved these smoked meat savory peat notes as opposed to the Band-Aid and iodine. I would say this on the palate is so much better than the nose. As it sits here and it envelops, I would say that the finish is rather long. It's very viscous. It sticks to everything. It's saturating underneath my tongue as it goes from the arrival to the mid palate to the finish. It just escalates in flavor. So the development on this is a gradual increase in not only the savory smoked peat, but it's also very sweet. The grilled pineapples, the grilled peaches, that red wine note is coming through. And now that I think of it, Pinot Noir, I think Pinot Noirs, the wine, are earthy. So maybe that funkiness that I was picking up, almost like a decaying fruit, I wonder if that is the Pinot Noir influence. It kind of has to be, doesn't it? Let me know in the comments down below if you get an earthy note out of Pinot Noirs. All right, let me go ahead and get a rinse of water and move on to the regular standard Longrow. Now, with this not being cask influenced like the Pinot Noir, those fruit notes, the peaches, the pineapple, and there is a very strong vanilla note that's coming through. Malty, the peat note is still the same. That sweet, savory smoked meat, that sour ginger note, I'm not picking up in here. It's more along the lines of a pepper spice. All right, let's get this on the palate. Oh, yeah, that is such a soft arrival, but it's intense with flavor. The malt, the sugar, the vanilla, the grilled fruits, the grilled light fruits. As much as this was saturating, this also saturates. It's getting underneath the tongue. It has a stickiness to it, almost to the point of a syrup. And because of that syrup stickiness, this is also a long finish. Pepper ginger spice is now growing. That malty note is definitely still there. Both sugary sweet, And I also very much appreciate and like the type of peat that's coming through, which again is the smoky peat. Now, as far as the history of Longrow or Springbank, I'm not really going to get into that, but Longrow itself was first distributed in 1973. And if you haven't picked up on it already, this is coming out of the Springbank distillery. They have 3 variations or 3 bottlings. They have their unpeated version, which is the Hazelburn. Then they have the Springbank, which is lightly peated. And then they have the heavily peated Longrow. Please let me know in the comments down below. I think they go through their distillation season, starting out with the Hazelburn, they're unpeated. Then they move on to their Springbank, and then they finish up with the Longrow. If I'm not mistaken, like 10% of their production is the Hazelburn, 80% is the Springbank, and then another 10% is the Longrow. And also something that I found interesting, the Longrow is double distilled. The Springbank is 2.5 times distilled, and then the Hazelburn, their non-peated version, is 3 times distilled. And maybe the weightiness or the thickness or the syrupy aspect of the Longrow, maybe that's coming through with the double distillation. Let me know in the comments down below if you can distinguish the difference between a triple distilled or a double distilled spirit. And does that have something to do with the weight of the actual distillate itself? And when I say weight, I'm talking about the mouthfeel itself, like the viscosity, the syrupiness of it. Or does a triple distilled come across as a little bit thin? I'd be curious to know what you guys think. All right, other than that, I really don't think there's really much else to say about Springbank. So let me go ahead and get the Longrow 7 on the nose, on the palate again, and then give it a score. All right, that funky note is now kind of more up front and center. And when I say funky, I should probably stop saying funky. It's earthy. Decaying leaves, fermented fruit, vanilla, pepper and ginger spice, kind of giving it a sour note. Not too crazy on the nose. Let's get it on the palate, see what the water's done. More spice, more pepper, good amount of malt. The peatiness, and I think this happens to me, the longer that I sip, I become a little bit more peat blind. So this is now more of a sweet and peppery forward single malt than it is a peated single malt. Don't get me wrong, it's still there, but I think the sweetness and the spice is now overtaking the overall peatiness. Tell you what, I really do like the palate on this much more than the nose. Let's see if the water has done anything to the Longrow. Oh, that vanilla note has now grown like 10 times the amount. Peaches and pineapple, grilled peaches and pineapple. There is a slight amount of funk and a little bit of pepper. I would say the sourness that I get in here with the ginger is missing from this. All right, let's get it on the palate. Oh, softened it quite a bit. It leveled out everything. There really is no explosion or development of flavors. It's consistent from the arrival to the mid palate to the finish, and the finish has now gone from long to short to medium. As far as adding the water goes, I don't think I would add water to the standard release Longrow. I don't think the Longrow 7 was affected that much with the water. Couldn't really tell much of a difference with or without water. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the score. If you're new here, I rate everything out of 5 stars. Because of the price and how this was kind of really unaffected or not affected as much with the water, kind of holds up to it. And I believe that's because of the ABV being 57.1%. Without looking at the price and taking into account, I don't really particularly care for the nose. I would put this at a 3.25. No, I will go 3.5. And then I need to put in a little bit of wiggle room here. If I'm going to actually factor in the price of this, because of the nose, not being a fan of it, and the price, it's going to knock down the overall experience to a 3.25. Decent, but not something that I would really reach for or look for. And this has been something that I have been looking for. Never seen it in my area until like a month ago. So I bit the bullet, shelled out the cash, and ended up getting it. Happy that I got it. Not too fond of the price, and definitely not fond of the nose. On the other hand, if I am looking at the standard Longrow without the water and factoring in price, the overall experience, I would put Longrow at 3.25 3.85. Now with the water, that overall experience with the water would probably knock it down to a 3.75, but it's my whiskey. I'm not going to drink it again with water, so I'm just going to end up drinking neat. So it's going to stay at a 3.85. So there you have it. Let me know in the comments down below if you've had either one of these. What do you think about them? Are they available in your area? Or just like most places, Longrow, Springbank, and Hazelburn are very difficult to find. For some reason, Phoenix, Arizona, we get these things all the time. And if you noticed, I did do a blend. So before I get this on the nose and on the palate, the OSWAs, the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, the voting is now coming to a close. So if you are still interested in participating and you haven't already, there are links in the description below. Just go ahead and click on that. And there's a little public voting link at the top right of the page. Click on that, vote in any category that you want. If you're not comfortable voting in all the categories, you can skip them. And if you are interested in either one of these bottles, or if you're interested in winning 2-ounce samples of either one of these bottles, I do have an October giveaway. The rules to that are also in the description. Go ahead and please read through those if you are interested in supporting the channel. And if my analytics are correct, right at about this time that this video is airing, I think I should be hitting the 10,000 subscriber mark. So I really appreciate all of the support over the past 2.5 years that I've been on YouTube. For those of you who have been entering the monthly giveaways, I really appreciate the support as well. Which brings me to the point, if you like this information and you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Turn that bell notification on because I produce videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. All right, let's go ahead and get on to the nose of the blend and see how it goes. All right, that's weird. There's more of a red fruit note that's coming through now, like a plum or a red grape, which is not surprising because of the Pinot Noir. But there's more of a mixed red berry note coming through with the two of them together. Still a pretty dominant vanilla note, malty, ginger, pepper. Let's get it on the palate. Prickly up front, that arrival is a blast of flavor again. There is a little bit of effervescence. It becomes more and more sweet as it travels through to the back of the palate. That vanilla starts to increase at the very back. That is actually very good. Probably one of the better blends that I've had in quite a while. Yeah, I'm impressed with that one. That tastes really good. That finish is lingering. That effervescence is giving me like a sparkly feeling all the way through, or that effervescence feeling all the way through the tongue. All right, so wherever you're at in your journey, I hope you're enjoying it. And until the next time, we'll talk to you later.